Think you've seen every weird, wild, and outrageous movie the '70s had to offer? Guess again. The real treasure lies in the B-movies, where creativity exploded, rules were shattered, and nothing was too bizarre for the big screen. How many of these oddball gems have you even heard of, let alone watched? Get ready for a ride through the most jaw-dropping, offbeat films the decade tried to keep hidden. The Severed Arm, 1973. Let's kick this party off with a slice of pure drive-in madness. The Severed Arm isn't just a title, it's practically a warning. Here's the setup. A group of buddies goes spelunking, gets trapped, and, in their panic, draws straws to decide who loses a limb for the others to survive. Yeah, it's grim. But the kicker? Right after they do the deed, they're rescued. Fast forward years later, and somebody starts mailing actual severed arms to the old crew. Suddenly, everyone's sweating, paranoid, and looking over their shoulders as the past literally comes back to haunt them. What makes The Severed Arm stand out isn't just its bonkers premise or its grindhouse vibe, it's how it builds dread from pure desperation and guilt. There are no polished Hollywood heroes here, just regular guys falling apart as their secrets catch up with them, one bloody package at a time. The film keeps you guessing, mixing slasher suspense with twisted morality tales, all on a shoestring budget that somehow makes everything feel raw and unpredictable. Why don't more people talk about this one? Maybe because it's buried under decades of bigger, flashier horror. But if you want a true '70s shocker with an ending that smacks you in the face, dig up The Severed Arm. Just don't watch it before dinner. The Giant Spider Invasion, 1975. Giant. Spiders. Invading Wisconsin. Need I say more? The Giant Spider Invasion is a B-movie legend, and yet somehow it's still under the radar for a lot of horror fans. This flick unleashes enormous, fuzzy, Volkswagen-sized spiders on small-town America, thanks to a rip in space caused by, you guessed it, some totally questionable science. What sets this movie apart isn't just its go-for-broke attitude or the fact that the special effects are so hilariously homemade they actually become part of the charm. Director Bill Rebane basically took a handful of old car parts, slapped on a bunch of fake fur, and called it a monster. The result? Spiders so massive and goofy you can't help but cheer when they lurch onto the screen, swallowing up locals and rolling through cornfields. But here's the thing, everyone involved plays it straight, which makes the absurdity even better. There's a tornado of chaos, panicked townsfolk, and a sheriff who's always 2 steps behind the spiders. The film even made a surprise killing at the box office, proving that if you throw enough weirdness at the wall, sometimes it sticks. So if you crave your horror with a side of camp and aren't above laughing at rubbery monsters on wheels, The Giant Spider Invasion will deliver in spades. Don't blame me if you start side-eyeing every spider in your basement afterward. The Dark, 1979. The Dark might just be the strangest monster movie you've never seen. What starts as a gritty Los Angeles thriller turns into a full-blown creature feature with a twist so wild you'll wonder if you missed a memo. The setup. People are getting torn to pieces on the city's dark streets, and all signs point to a serial killer. But the cops soon realize they're chasing something way beyond human. Halfway through production, the filmmakers threw a curveball and decided their killer wasn't just a lunatic, but an alien with laser eyes. Yes, you read that right, an alien who blasts victims with eye-beams. The result is a patchwork of detective drama, monster mayhem, and sci-fi spectacle that defies every expectation. Some scenes play out like a grim police procedural, while others go straight for shock and awe with over-the-top special effects and gleeful chaos. What makes The Dark such a B-movie gem isn't just its absurd premise, it's the way it charges forward with total confidence, no matter how bizarre things get. William Devane and Richard Jekyll deliver their lines with hard-boiled grit, even as glowing blue lights and rubber-suited monsters crash the party. It's messy, unpredictable, and a pure product of '70s midnight movie culture. The Dark is the kind of film that keeps you guessing and laughing in equal measure. If you want a horror flick that's never boring and always surprising, cue this one up and brace yourself for the I-beam carnage. The Baby, 1973. If you think you've seen Strange, you haven't even scratched the surface. The Baby is the kind of movie you tell your friends about just to see their reaction. The plot centers on a social worker who takes a keen interest in a family with a fully grown man who behaves and is treated like an infant. Diapers, crib, the works. Yeah, it's as bizarre as it sounds, and it only gets stranger from there. What unfolds is a twisted, almost surreal tale that blurs the lines between family drama, psychological horror, and pitch-black comedy. The performances are so committed, you start questioning if you're the weird one for being so fascinated. The mother, played with chilling intensity by Ruth Roman, guards her baby with a creepy zeal that turns the whole thing into a warped fairy tale gone wrong. The baby takes every expectation you have about exploitation films and smashes them with a rattle. It's unsettling, uncomfortable, and absolutely unforgettable. Just when you think you know where it's going, the film yanks the rug out from under you. If you're hunting for the kind of 70s B-movie that gets stuck in your head for days, The Baby is your ticket. Watch it with friends and see who's brave enough to make it to the end without squirming. God Monster of Indian Flats, 1973. You want weird? Buckle up. God Monster of Indian Flats is a freakish, psychedelic blend of mutant sheep, desert mayhem, and anti-corporate small-town politics. The story opens in rural Nevada, where a scientist accidentally spawns a giant mutant sheep that quickly becomes the town's most baffling problem. This isn't your average monster movie. God Monster throws in everything but the kitchen sink. What really makes it stand out is its offbeat, almost surreal atmosphere. There's a parade, a sinister land deal, and a monstrous sheep rampaging through mining country, all shot through a haze of 1970s low-budget strangeness. The creature effects are awkward and wonderful, turning the mutant sheep into something that looks like a fever dream after too many late-night westerns. But underneath the monster madness, there's an undercurrent of satire, mocking greed, corruption, and small-town paranoia. It's a movie that feels like it was made by people who were equal parts inspired and totally baffled by what they were creating. God Monster of Indian Flats is the kind of B-movie you watch with a grin plastered on your face, shaking your head at every new plot twist. You'll never look at livestock the same way again, and you'll be telling people about the mutant sheep movie for years. Sugar Hill, 1974. Forget everything you think you know about zombies, because Sugar Hill rewrites the rules with swagger, style, and a shot of pure 70s funk. This is not your typical undead shuffle. This is voodoo vengeance at its most entertaining. The setup: Diana Sugar Hill, a woman with nerves of steel, loses her boyfriend to a gang of ruthless mobsters. Instead of dialing the police, she strikes a deal with a local voodoo queen and calls up Baron Samedi, the wildest spirit in all of horror history, to unleash an army of zombie hitmen. What follows is a revenge spree so imaginative you'll be cheering for Sugar at every turn. The zombies aren't your slow-moving, mindless creeps. No, these are silver-eyed, cobweb-draped specters raised from the grave to settle the score. Each gangster meets their end in a way that feels tailor-made for the best kind of poetic justice, with Sugar orchestrating every move like a supernatural chess master. But don't think this is all about frights and fights. Sugar Hill oozes charisma. Marky Bay's performance as the lead is smooth, sharp, and way ahead of its time. The soundtrack pulses with funk, the sets are drenched in wild colors, and every scene is painted with that 70s magic. It's horror, it's camp, it's blaxploitation, and it's criminally underseen. If you want a B-movie that blends chills with the kind of groove only the 70s could deliver, Sugar Hill is essential viewing. Just try not to start rooting for the zombies. You might surprise yourself. The Witch Who Came from the Sea, 1976. Some films sneak up on you, get under your skin, and stay there. The Witch Who Came from the Sea is that kind of movie. From the first frame, you know you're watching something dangerous, a sun-bleached fever dream that walks the tightrope between psychological thriller and pure nightmare fuel. The story follows Molly, a woman haunted by trauma and a tangled past, whose fantasies turn into violent reality in the most shocking ways. But this isn't a slasher where you just count the bodies. Instead, you're sucked into Molly's mind, lost in a whirl of dreams, memories, and sunlit beach scenes that hide the film's darker heart. The result is a mix of horror and surreal drama that's deeply unsettling, thanks in large part to Millie Perkins' fearless performance. She turns Molly into someone both sympathetic and terrifying. One minute you're rooting for her, the next you're glancing at the exit. The Witch Who Came from the Sea was controversial in its day and even got banned in some places. But beneath its rough edges, it's a smart, haunting look at pain and the scars it leaves behind. It's not your typical B-movie screamfest. It's a strange, brave, and bold piece of 70s filmmaking that's been buried too long. Ready for a movie that'll leave you talking long after the credits roll? Dive in, but be warned, you might find it staring back at you days later. Tourist Trap, 1979. Welcome to the creepiest roadside attraction you'll never want to visit. Tourist Trap is the kind of B-movie that lives to mess with your head, your nerves, and your expectations. It starts innocently enough. A group of friends' car breaks down, so they end up at a weird wax museum run by an eccentric, soft-spoken old-timer named Mr. Slauson. Sounds like a pit stop, right? Wrong. What follows is a masterclass in nightmare fuel. The mannequins in this museum don't just sit there, they move, whisper, and seem to watch your every move. The walls creak, the air thickens, and the tension builds until you're squirming in your seat. Director David Schmoller crafts a film that's part slasher, part supernatural mindbender, and part fever dream. The score shrieks, the camera lingers just a little too long, and suddenly, what looked silly a minute ago feels downright terrifying. But Tourist Trap's true genius lies in its ability to keep you guessing. Every time you think you figured out the next scare, it hits you with something stranger. Chuck Connor's performance as Mr. Slauson is equal parts charming and chilling, anchoring the film in a world where nothing is quite what it seems. For those who crave a horror film that's as bizarre as it is unsettling, Tourist Trap is a forgotten jewel of the 70s. Watch it with the lights off if you dare. The Brotherhood of Satan, 1971. If you think small towns are safe, think again. The Brotherhood of Satan is what happens when the weirdest folks in the county get together and decide to turn creepy up to 11. The story is simple. A family rolls into a dusty, isolated town and immediately notices something's off. Kids are vanishing, the grown-ups are in a daze, and a mysterious group seems to have their hands in everything. As paranoia creeps in, the film unleashes a slow-burn atmosphere that's equal parts cult thriller and old-school chiller. The town's secrets bubble to the surface. Think eerie dolls, mysterious symbols, and a group of sinister elders who always seem to know a little too much. There's no mad slasher or monster jumping out here. Instead, the dread builds like a pressure cooker, scene by scene, until you're squirming right along with the family. What makes the Brotherhood of Satan special is its willingness to take its time, letting the weirdness seep into every corner. The performances are haunting, especially Strother Martin as the town's not-so-friendly doctor, and the ending packs a punch you won't see coming. If you love your B-movies packed with atmosphere and a creeping sense of doom, this is a must-see. Just remember, when the town seems too quiet, there's always a reason. Grave of the Vampire, 1972. Ever wanted a vampire movie that flips the whole genre on its head? Grave of the Vampire isn't just wild for its time, it's still shocking today. The story launches with a violent attack in a graveyard, but what follows isn't your classic creature of the night routine. Instead, we get a decade-spanning chase as a woman gives birth to a son with a terrifying secret. He's half human, half vampire, and his father is the bloodsucker who started it all. The son grows up obsessed, training himself for a single mission: hunt down the monster that destroyed his family. This isn't slick Hollywood horror. It's raw, gritty, and completely unapologetic. The sets are smoky, the atmosphere is thick with dread, and the special effects are exactly the kind of rough-around-the-edges practical work that B-movie fans love. The film doesn't waste time with gothic castles or romantic undertones. Instead, it drags the whole vampire myth into dingy apartments and dark American backstreets. What sets Grave of the Vampire apart is the way it blends family drama with old-school horror. You get a twisted father-son rivalry where the stakes are, literally, life and death. William Smith, as the half-vampire son, delivers a performance that's both fierce and weirdly sympathetic, while Michael Pataki chews every bit of scenery as the monstrous patriarch. It's brutal, relentless, and far more ambitious than its tiny budget would suggest. If you're ready for a B-movie that isn't afraid to sink its teeth into the darker side of family legacy, Grave of the Vampire is the one to watch. The Manitu, 1978. Just when you think you've seen it all, the Manitu storms in and proves you haven't. This movie is pure, only in the 70s energy, melding supernatural horror, hospital drama, and wild Native American mythology in ways that'll leave you wide-eyed. The story launches with a woman who discovers a mysterious lump on her neck, only to learn it's a growing, living being. Turns out it's the reincarnation of a centuries-old shaman. Yes, you read that right, trying to claw his way into the modern world. The special effects flip from impressive to delightfully bonkers in seconds. We're talking hospital hallways overrun by poltergeist mayhem, levitating doctors, and a final battle set in a cosmic vortex. Tony Curtis stars as a hustling fake psychic who suddenly finds himself in a very real battle against ancient forces. His deadpan delivery gives the movie a layer of B-movie magic that you just can't fake. But what really sets the Manitu apart is its total commitment to the bizarre. It's unafraid to go all in, whether it's a possessed MRI machine or the sight of an ancient sorcerer emerging from a surgical scar. Few films swing for the fences with such reckless abandon. If you're searching for a 70s gem that will have you questioning what you just saw, the Manitu is your ticket. Call your bravest friends. You'll want company for this one. The Incredible Melting Man, 1977. Ready for a gooey, glorious mess? The Incredible Melting Man is one of those movies that's as much fun to talk about as it is to watch. Here's the setup. An astronaut returns from a doomed mission to Saturn only to discover he's literally falling apart, melting, one grotesque chunk at a time. Instead of checking into the nearest ER, he hits the countryside, leaving a trail of sticky mayhem and terrified onlookers. What you get is a full-throttle parade of 70s practical effects. The makeup team, led by the legendary Rick Baker, delivers unforgettable visuals, dripping flesh, oozing faces, and chase scenes that look like a horror comic brought to life. The plot is as simple as it gets, but the charm is in the execution. Every moment is played with just enough seriousness to keep you on edge, but with a wink that says, "Yeah, we know this is nuts." The Incredible Melting Man isn't just a horror flick, it's a celebration of everything outlandish about B-movies. It's cheesy, it's gooey, and it somehow works. If you're a fan of practical effects, or just want to see how wild the 70s could get, look no further. Just keep your snacks far from the screen. This one gets messy. The Town That Dreaded Sundown, 1976. Sometimes the scariest things are rooted in truth, and The Town That Dreaded Sundown is proof. Inspired by real events in Texarkana, this movie follows a mysterious hooded figure who terrorizes a sleepy southern town. The film doesn't hold back. The suspense builds with every moonlit attack, and you never really know when the next strike will come. What's special here is the blend of documentary-style storytelling and straight-up horror. The movie feels like you're hearing an old ghost story retold by someone who swears it all really happened. The killer's mask is chilling, the attacks are brutal, and the tension never lets up. Ben Johnson anchors the film as the determined lawman on the killer's trail, adding a dose of hard-boiled gravitas. But The Town That Dreaded Sundown is more than a slasher. It's a weird, atmospheric window into small-town fear and gossip. It's the kind of movie that leaves you glancing out your window just in case. The fact that it's still relatively unknown outside horror circles is criminal. If you want your B-movies with a side of, "Could this really happen?" dread, this one's a must-see. Lock your doors and press play. You've been warned. 1973. Blood and Lace, 1971. You think orphanages are safe? Think again. Blood and Lace is a fever dream thriller that throws every rule out the window. When a young girl loses her mother, she's sent to a remote orphanage run by a couple with secrets darker than the basement. It doesn't take long for bodies to start stacking up, and what seems like a safe haven quickly turns into a house of horrors. This isn't your standard slasher or haunted house tale. Blood and Lace mixes whodunit mystery, chilling atmosphere, and a dose of dark humor that sneaks up on you. The caretaker's icy calm hides a dangerous edge, and every kid seems like they're hiding something too. There are twists, betrayals, and a finale that's still shocking all these decades later. What makes it pure B-movie gold is the way it takes the familiar and distorts it until you can't trust anyone or anything. The low budget actually adds to the weird, off-kilter vibe, making everything just a little more unsettling. If you're in the mood for a cult classic that will keep you guessing and maybe glancing over your shoulder, Blood and Lace is waiting for you. Just don't turn your back on the staff. Mania 73. Ready for a biker movie with a supernatural kick? Mania is the wildest ride you never took. The premise? A motorcycle gang led by the gleefully reckless Tom Latham discovers the secret to immortality. If you truly believe you'll come back, you do, preferably on your bike, roaring through foggy English fields like a demon on wheels. This movie has everything: cult ceremonies, trippy dream sequences, frog-worshipping seances, and enough roaring engines to make your speakers tremble. The gang's idea of fun? Driving off bridges and coming back for more. It's equal parts horror, dark comedy, and acid trip adventure, with a rock soundtrack that'll stick in your head for days. Mania's secret weapon is its style, equal parts groovy and gothic, blending swinging London with Hammer horror vibes. The effects are sometimes rough, but who cares when the movie's having this much fun? Nicky Henson gives Tom a charmingly unhinged edge, and Beryl Reid steals every scene as his mother, the gang's resident mystic. If you crave your B-movies with a side of, "What did I just watch?" Mania is the undisputed champ. Kickstart your curiosity and join the undead ride. You won't regret it. There you have it, 15 B-movies from the 1970s that rewrote the rules and left the mainstream in the dust. Which one shocked you most? Got a secret favorite I missed? Hit the comments, subscribe if you want more off-the-wall movie lists, and share this with your fellow film fans. Remember, when it comes to the 70s, the real magic is always in the movies nobody saw coming.